From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang and here are the news. For our top story, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Thursday personally delivered various government assistance to selected farmers, fisherfolk, and family beneficiaries from Northern Mindanao in a ceremonial distribution at the Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology or MSU-IIT in Iligan City. This is the fourth time the President has held a similar event in towns severely affected by El Nino, resulting in agricultural damage and water shortages. In his speech, the chief executive said the government is diligently advancing projects and programs that will give opportunities for the city as well as the region. President Marcos said the National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA has already outlined the strategies and projects under the Northern Mindanao Regional Development Plan from 2023 to 2028 that aims to make Region 10 globally competitive, a leading agricultural hub, and a major industrial tourism trade center. A financial assistance worth 10,000 pesos was given to select beneficiaries from Iligan City, Lanao del Norte, and Misamis Occidental. Additionally, the local government of Iligan City received 10.5 million pesos in presidential assistance alongside the provincial governments of Lanao del Norte and Misamis Occidental, which received 13.9 million pesos and 24.3 million pesos respectively. Let us now listen to the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Nagagalak po ako na makarating dito sa inyong lugar upang makita at makasama na naman ang mga kababayan natin sa Iligan City at ang mga karatig bayan dito sa Region 10. Napaka-espesyal po ng Northern Mindanao para sa akin sapagkat isa po ang inyong lugar na nagbigay ng na di matatawarang suporta sa akin nung nakaraang halalan. Muli, maraming salamat po sa inyong tiwala. Asahan niyo po na itong suporta at tiwala na ipinakita niyo para sa atin at sa ating mga kasamahan ay isusuklian namin ng lahat ng trabaho at tulong upang pagandahin ang buhay ng bawat Pilipino at pagandahin ang ating minamahal na Pilipinas. Kahit po ngayon, talaga namang nakakaantig ang damdamin, ang makita kayo na patuloy na tumatangkilik at tumutulong sa pamahalaan. Tunay na nakatatak sa aking puso na maging sa aking buong pamilya, ang siyudad ng Iligan, ang buong lalawigan ng Lanao del Norte. Kaya naman, masikap nating isinusulong ang mga inisyatibo na makakapagpabilis sa pag-usbong ng kaunlaran dito sa inyong syudad at sa buong region. Tuloy-tuloy po ang ating pamahalaan sa pagsisikap na maitaguyod ang mga proyekto at programang magbibigay ng oportunidad para sa lahat. Sa pangunguna ng NEDA, inilatag na ang mga estratehiya at proyekto na gagawin sa inyong rehiyon sa ilalim ng Northern Mindanao Regional Development Plan ng 2023 hanggang 2028. Hangad po nito na gawing globally competitive at leading agricultural hub, major industrial tourism, trade center ang buong Region 10. ilan lamang sa ating mga prioridad na proyekto ay ang 8 bilyong piso na Pangil Bay Bridge na magkokonekta sa Tangub, Misamis Occidental at tubod dito sa Lanao del Norte. Dagdag po rito, nakapaglabas na tayo ng halos 2 bilyong piso para sa implementasyon ng Iligan City Coastal Bypass Road na naglalayong maibsan ang trapiko sa syudad. Nariyan din ang expansion, rehabilitation at development ng mga paliparan sa Osamis, Camiguin, Lumbia, Bukidnon at Lagindingan. Ang mga proyektong ito ay naglalayong mapabilis ang daloy ng ekonomiya at oportunidad para sa mga mamamayan ng Region 10. Atin din binibigyan ng karampatang pansin ang pagpapalago ng agrikultura. Kaya naman po, nagbubuhos na po ang NIA, ang National Irrigation Administration, ng mga proyekto pang-irigasyon. Sa Lanao del Norte, prioridad nating matapos ang 2 solar pump irrigation project sa bayan ng Salvador at Sapad kung saan halos 30 milyong piso ang nabigay na pondo para dito sa proyektong ito. Meron pa rin po tayo dahil po kailangan na pag tayo ay makikilahok sa bagong ekonomiya na lumitaw sa pagkatapos ng pandemya, pagkatapos ng COVID-19, naglalagay rin po tayo ng mga scholarship program at subsidy para eksklusibo na para sa mga naglalayong mag-aral ng agricultural at medical courses. Kaya sa academic year 2023 to 2024, nakapagbigay tayo ng halos 60 milyong piso para sa higit na 400 mga scholar ng medical scholarship and return service program ng CHED dito sa Region 10. Para naman po sa mga itinatawag na micro, small, and medium enterprises o MSME, nandyan po ang ating negosyo center at shared services facilities ng Department of Trade and Industry upang tulungan kayong mas mapalago ang inyong mga negosyo. Sa ilalim ng negosyo center program, higit sa 30,000 na MSME sa rehiyon ang ating natulungan simula nung nakaraang taon, 2023. Dagdag po pa rito ang halos 3,000 na MSMEs ang ating natulungan sa ilalim ng Shared Service Facilities Project. Isa rin sa mga programa ng DTI ay ang One Town, One Product bilang suporta sa lokal na produkto ng rehiyon. Dito sa Iligan, alam kong sikat na pasalubong ang toasted peanut at palapa. Kaya kung meron kayong dala dyan, picturean ninyo, mag-selfie kayo kasama ng produkto tapos i-post ninyo sa social media. Simpleng bagay lang, pero napakalaking tulong yan upang makilala at maipagmalaki ang inyong mga produkto at inyong lugar. Lalo na at usong-uso ngayon ang social media sa karamihan sa atin ngayon. Hindi maikaila ang ating pagiging malikhain at nakikita ito sa mga ipinagmamalaki natin mga lokal na produkto at serbisyo. Sa parte naman ng pamahalaan, makakaasa po kayo na patuloy ang aming mga programa at proyekto upang mas mapabuti ang pamumuhay ng mga mamamayan sa rehiyon. Ngunit, naharap din ang ating bansa sa matinding tagtuyot na balakid sa ating kaunlaran. Kaya nga po, ang ginagawa natin ngayon ay sinusuyod natin ang buong kapuluan upang maghatid ng tulong sa mga napinsala ng matinding tag-init at tagtuyo na nangyayari sa El Nino. Kaya napansin ng aking may bahay, nagka-sunburn na daw ako sa kakabigay ng tulong. Pero wala tayong magagawa. Ito talagang kulay ng mga Ilocano. Sanay mabilad sa araw. Lalo na kung ito ay para magsilbi sa taong bayan para sa inyo. Wa- Lahat po, marami po tayong pupuntahan pa. Walang rehiyon ang makakalimutan sa pagbibigay ng tulong. Walang sektor ang makakaligtaan. Pwede ko naman po inabili na sa aking mga kalihim ang pagdadala ng tulong. Pwede ko rin iatas sa iba na paghahatid ng serbisyo. Ngunit, kung gagawin ko yun, hindi ko kayo makakasalumuha. Hindi ko makikita ang inyong tunay na kalagayan. Hindi ko maririnig ang inyong mga hinaing. Higit sa lahat, hindi ko matutunghayan ang pag-unlad ng Iligan ng Lanao del Norte na bunga ng sipag at tiyaga ng kanyang mga mamamayan. Napakalaki po ang bilib, paghanga at respeto ko sa inyong lahat. Kaya naman, minamarapat ko na isama ang buong lakas ng pamahalaan sa aking pagdalaw sa inyong rehiyon. Mula sa Office of the President, mga iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno hanggang sa lokal na pamahalaan. Lahat po kami ay nagkapit-bisig upang maging mabilis at mabisa ang paghatid ng mga ayuda sa inyo. Pangungunahan po natin ang pag-aabot ng tseke sa ating mga lokal na pamahalaan para sa presidential assistance ng mga magsasaka at mangingisdang apektado ng El Nino na nagkakahalaga ng 10,000 piso bawat benepisaryo. Ito po ay dagdag po sa mga ibinibigay ng iba't ibang ahensya ng pamahalaan at ito ay galing mismo sa opisina ng Pangulo upang magsilbing dagdag tulong sa mga apektadong pamilya. Nandito rin po ang DSWD upang mamahagi ng pinansyal na tulong ang opisina ng ating butihing House Speaker upang mamahagi ng bigas sa mga minamahal kong Pilipino. Asahan po ninyo ang patuloy naming pag-iikot sa Mindanao at sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa upang masiguro na maihahatid namin ang tulong at serbisyo sa taong bayan. Narito po ang inyong pamahalaan sa lahat ng oras. Sa panahon ng tagtuyot at pagparating ng tag-ulan, handa po kaming umagapay sa inyong lahat. Sa ilalim ng bagong Pilipinas, walang manlalamang at walang malalamangan. Walang mang-iiwan at walang maiiwanan. Lahat po tayo ay sabay-sabay na hahakbang tungo sa mas maunlad na kinabukasan. Tiyakin po natin na ang bawat Pilipino ay mabigyan ng pagkakataon umasenso at gumaan ang buhay ng kanilang sarili at ng kanilang pamilya. Maraming salamat, Iligan City. Mabuhay kayong lahat. Asahan po ninyo ng inyong pamahalaan ay laging nakaalalay sa inyo. Ang inyong pamahalaan ay laging pinapakinggan ang pangangailangan ninyo. Ang ating pamahalaan ay laging nandito upang magbigay ng tulong pa sa bawat sa inyo upang masabi naman natin dito sa kahirapan ay nakapagdulot ng kahit kaunting ginhawa. Maraming salamat. Mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas.
And you just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday called for a comprehensive and all-encompassing strategy to improve the state of higher education in the country. This as the president noted that no Philippine university reached the top 100 of the Times Higher Education's 2024 Asia University Rankings. In his speech during the National Higher Education Day Summit, or NHEDS 2024, at the Philippine International Convention Center in Pasay City, the president said this just goes to show that much work is still to be done. According to the latest The Times Higher Education Asia University Rankings 2024, Ateneo de Manila University is the highest ranked Philippine University ranking in the 401 to 500 bracket, followed by the De La Salle University and the University of the Philippines, both at the 501 to 600 bracket. Let us now listen to the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
It is with delight that I join all of you today in this summit, where gains that will be recognized and challenges will be assessed. Strategies have been identified that will move higher education forward. The National Higher Education Day Summit is the first of its kind to be held in our country, so we can collaborate with our higher educational institutions and other stakeholders to assess and to steer the direction of higher education in the Philippines. I do hope that this summit has given its participants a commanding and unobstructed view of our educational landscape. Whatever the outputs of the summit are, I hope they will cascade down to campuses and to classrooms as a force of good, as a force of innovation, and methods to move our educational standards forward and upward. No challenge demands greater attention than this. This is the highest priority. I have stated it before, but I will state it again, that as far as my view of government service is concerned, the most important service that government must provide to its people is a good education. No country can prosper without a good educational background. Even if we take it down to the individual level, individuals cannot prosper without a good education. And of course, together with all the stakeholders, both on the public side and the private side, once again, training, education holds the key. As of December 2023, 81 Philippine higher educational institutions have been included in various world university rankings, a significant increase from the 52 that were included in July 2023. However, we must acknowledge that in the recent Times Higher Education 2024 Asia University rankings, unfortunately, no Philippine university has reached top 100, with the country's top schools either dropping or maintaining their rankings. This just goes to show that much work is still to be done. We must pursue a comprehensive and all-encompassing strategy that will turn this trend around. The state of our education today shapes the future of the nation. The battle to win the future is waged in today's schools, where we should arm our young men and women with the right skills to not only survive, but to thrive in a rapidly changing world that does not wait for anyone. Giving the youth the right competencies and skills and training is the only way for them to prevail and to prosper in this highly competitive world. Our greatest obligation to them is to mold them into critical thinkers, into problem solvers, into visionaries, wielding the skills that will allow them to succeed in the future. Without an educated workforce that will implement them, any national economic blueprint will remain simply as that, blueprints. We will not have the means or the capacity or the labor force to be able to make those plans reality. Without skilled manpower who will run them, industries will grind to a halt. Social services will cease to function. Without a national pool of talent who can master new technologies and adjust quickly to tectonic changes, the country will be perpetually catching up, left behind by other societies whose educational systems have been made more adept. And that is why improving higher education and making it responsive to the present and future needs of society is front and center of this administration's national development agenda. The success of many of our plans for the country depend heavily on the availability of a strong, resilient, and skilled human resource to drive the nation forward. Allow me to share you my fundamental beliefs on the matter. One, higher education is too important a mission to be left to government alone. As with all the important developments, all the important plans that we put together, we cannot say that it is only government's responsibility. But we should also allow private parties to participate and not shove private parties to the sidelines. Nor should it be that the cause of their diminution or their demise. When it comes to educating our youth, government and private schools are not competitors, but must be regarded as equal partners. And as such, governments should ensure their viability, treat them as strategic assets whose existence is guaranteed by nurturing policies and support. Second, of all state expenditure, education delivers the best dividends. This administration remains committed to the continuing provision of a free tertiary education in public universities and colleges for qualified students as provided under the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act. We have allocated close to 134 billion pesos for our state and local universities and colleges this year so that more students can receive free tertiary education and more families will be eased of the burden of having to pay for college. We know that whatever is spent on education, we should never regard as an expenditure. It is an investment. It is an investment. It is an investment in our people. It is an investment in our country. It is an investment in our future. Third, mandates must be attached to merits. Democratizing access to education should not lead to the lowering of academic standards. Scholastic yardsticks are not movable goalposts, which we change every year to improve our numbers. These must be regarded as firm benchmarks that are resistant to the pressures that seek to undercut the quality of that education. We must hold ourselves, our students, the entire system to a high standard. And it is the only way that we will succeed in this fast-moving, changing world. Fourth, there are ways of solving educational problems other than just throwing money at the problem. Certainly, we could not say that appropriations will always solve the problem. Cash is not always a cure. Even funding does not automatically guarantee that we will get our desired outcome. A solution, if intrinsically bad, does not become effective because it has become funded. I hope you take the above points into consideration. The last thing we need now is a set of new talking points that we rehash once again what we have learned a long time ago. Besides, what we have learned a long time ago is actually no longer relevant. We have seen the changes in the requirements of the new global post-pandemic economy. And for us to be able to participate successfully in that new global economy, we must have a skilled workforce. And that will depend upon their training and their education. I would rather that consensus forged in this summit be incorporated in the proposed budget for CHED and SUCs for 2025, because only then can ideas be translated into reality. So as we look further to the horizon in our higher educational sector, I hope this summit will yield answers and solutions to the challenges and opportunities that we now face in our higher educational sector. And so I encourage every stakeholder here to work with us and strengthen our efforts towards an inclusive, equitable, accessible, and sustainable higher educational sector. Let us mold a new generation of critical thinkers, problem solvers, visionaries, who will realize our aspirations for a new Philippines, a bagong Pilipinas, to bring us to a future of growth, opportunity, and prosperity. In my view, it is the only way that our country will succeed. It is the only way that we will be an active participant in not only the economy of the world, but in all as a citizen of the world community, that this country will succeed. So with this, I trust that the men and women of CHED, led by Chairperson Popoy de Vera, will lead us forward and continue their trustworthy and unwavering service for the benefits of our students and the entire country. I wish you all a fruitful and engaging summit, and I once again pledge the total and complete support of this administration for all that you endeavor to do for higher education to improve the quality that we are providing for our students and for our workforce.
And you just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news stories, the National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA board, chaired by Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., has approved on Wednesday the 30.56 billion peso project to rebuild and reconstruct calamity-hit school facilities outside Metro Manila. According to the Presidential Communications Office or PCO, the Department of Education or DepEd's Infrastructure for Safer and Resilient Schools or ISRS project will be largely funded by an Official Development Assistance or ODA loan from the World Bank International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. The PCO said of the 30.56 billion peso total project cost, 25 or 27.5 billion pesos will come from loan proceeds, while the 3.06 billion pesos will be a counterpart fund from the national government. ODA loans support developing countries by providing low-interest, long-term, and concessional funds to finance development projects. The ISRS project will be implemented by the DepEd and the Department of Public Works and Highways from 2025 to 2029. It involves the repair, rehabilitation, retrofitting, and reconstruction of school facilities outside the National Capital Region which were damaged by various disasters between 2019 and 2023, according to the PCO. The project is expected to benefit 1,282 schools, 4,756 school buildings, 13,101 classrooms, and 741,038 learners.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, Japanese Ambassador Endo Kayuza on Wednesday paid a courtesy visit to Presidential Communications Office or PCO Secretary Cheloy Velicaria Garafil. In a news release, Endo expressed his appreciation for Garafil's contribution to the deepening of Japan-Philippines relations and his commitment to fulfilling his responsibilities to strengthen bilateral relations during his tenure. Garafil also expressed her desire to work with the Japanese ambassador to further promote the already prosperous Japan-Philippines relations. Endo also visited the 97-meter patrol vessel Melchora Aquino of the Philippine Coast Guard or PCG. He was briefed by PCG Commandant Ronnie Hill Gavan on Coast Guard operations in the waters surrounding the Philippines. Endo expressed his appreciation that the Japan-supplied patrol vessels are contributing to Coast Guard operations within the Philippine waters and conveyed his aspiration to further strengthen and promote the cooperative relationship between Japan and the Philippines in the future. The PCG patrol vessel Melchora Aquino was supplied in 2022 under Maritime Safety Capacity Improvement Project Phase 2 and is utilized by the Philippine Coast Guard for search and rescue, maritime law enforcement, and other operations.
Dateline Malacañang.
In a related story, Japan ambassador to the Philippines Endo Kazuya on Wednesday assured the support of the Japanese government in the acquisition of 5 more capital ships by the Philippine Coast Guard or PCG. The assurance was made during Endo's courtesy visit to PCG Commandant Admiral Ronnie Hill Gavan at the PCG headquarters in Manila. In an interview after the courtesy visit, Gavan said while the Philippines welcomes all offers from various countries, Japan has been providing the country with the most opportunities. PCG spokesperson Rear Admiral Armando Balilo said the Philippines and Japan will conduct a note signing for the acquisition of 5 97-meter multi-role response vessels or MRRVs on Friday. In a statement, Balilo said the acquisition will expand the PCG fleet around 2027 to 2028. To date, the PCG has 2 97-meter MRRVs, the BRP Teresa Magbanwa or MRRV 9701 and BRP Melchora Aquino or MRRV 9702. Both ships are currently active in maritime security and safety operations in the West Philippine Sea.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP is hoping to expand cooperation between the Philippines and Sweden in terms of defense and security. This was the message of AFP Inspector General Lieutenant General Steve Crespillo to Brigadier General Olle Holtgren, the Swedish military advisor of the Department of Armament and Industry of the Ministry of Defense of Sweden, when the latter visited Camp Aguinaldo on Wednesday. According to AFP Public Affairs Office Chief Colonel Cercis Trinidad, the two officials discussed the effort of the AFP to discover additional opportunities to promote a shared commitment between the two nations in regional security and global peacekeeping efforts. The military relations between the Philippines and Sweden are anchored on a Memorandum of Understanding or MOU concerning cooperation in the acquisition of defense material that was signed in 2023. The agreement became the instrument to further expand defense cooperation between the two countries, particularly the procurement of wartime weapons.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news stories, the Philippines and the United Arab Emirates or UAE concluded the first round of negotiations for the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement or CEPA, with the former targeting to conclude the talks by the end of 2024. Trade Under-Secretary Alan Gepti led the Philippine negotiation team, and Ministry of Economy International Trade Affairs Sector Assistant Secretary Juma Alkait for the UAE side. The Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA on Wednesday said the initial round covered some chapters that outline the guidelines of the negotiations. These include trade in goods, which aims to attain the highest degree of tariff liberalization for Philippine products of interest while safeguarding highly sensitive products, and the rules of origin, aiming to secure liberal rules of origin for Philippine products of interest. The two sides also tackled customs procedures and trade facilitation, aiming to achieve more facilitative, transparent, and predictable procedures for conducting trade. Also discussed were chapters on technical barriers to trade and sanitary and phytosanitary or SPS measures. The DFA said the investments chapter was covered, focusing on the protection of Philippine businesses in the UAE and ways to attract more investments from the UAE through promotion and facilitation. CPA, a bilateral free trade agreement or FTA, is envisioned to expand the flow of export goods and services to the UAE, generate more investments from UAE, and create more opportunities for professionals and service providers. The Philippines and the UAE signed the CEPA's term of reference on December 2, marking the initial step for the proposed bilateral free trade agreement between the two countries.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine government has deposited the instrument of accession to the United Nations or UN Registration Convention, a treaty that calls for the registration of all objects launched into outer space. Philippine Permanent Mission to the UN in New York, Antonio Lagdameo, handed over the instrument to UN Office of Legal Affairs Treaty Section Chief David Nanopoulos on May 14. The UN Convention on Registration of Objects Launched into Outer Space, or simply the Registration Convention, contributes to the promotion, exploration, and use of outer space for peaceful purposes. In depositing the document, the Philippine mission in the UN recognized the need to establish and maintain a public register to reduce the possibility of having unidentified objects in space. The convention was adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1974 and requires the registration of objects launched into Earth orbit or outer space by an appropriate national space agency. Under this, information concerning the space object, including the date and location of launch, basic orbital parameters, and its general function must be communicated to the UN Secretary-General as soon as practicable. Manila's accession comes as it bolsters its exchanges on space development through the Philippine Space Agency or PhilSA. In a statement on Wednesday, Lagdameo highlighted PhilSA's role as the primary agency addressing all national issues and activities related to space science and technology or SNT. Earlier this month, the Philippine government held its inaugural space dialogue with the United States and agreed to explore ways to expand collaboration, including on space industry sector development.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news stories, relations between the Philippines and Austria will further deepen upon the opening of the Philippines-Austria Friendship Week as announced by Migrant Workers Undersecretary for Policy and International Cooperation Patricia Yvonne Caunan. Caunan said the Department of Migrant Workers or DMW targets to build a Migrant Workers Office or MWO in Vienna, Austria. According to Caunan, the Philippine Embassy in Vienna is thoroughly coordinating with officials to make this happen. If talks go well, the new MWO will most probably be built in the third quarter of this year. Meanwhile, in the celebration of the Philippines-Austria Friendship Week, DMW Secretary Hans-Leo Kakdak and Austria Ambassador to the Philippines Johann Bridger exchanged tokens of appreciation along with senior Austrian embassy officials. The two countries hope to establish more opportunities for Filipino workers to work in Austria, which can bolster the economy.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines Commission on Appointments, or CA, on Wednesday approved in plenary session the ad interim appointments of 16 Foreign Service officials of the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA. Senator Jinggoy Ejercito Estrada, chairman of the CA Committee on Foreign Affairs, said all were considered and deliberated on their appointments, and the committee found them all to be fit and qualified, meritorious of their promotion to their respective ranks and title, and ruled to endorse them to the plenary for approval of this August chamber. Estrada added that the CA is optimistic that the DFA, with its roster of capable and highly effective diplomats and envoys, will continue to perform its mission of promoting and protecting Philippine interests in the global community. Among those that got the nod from the CA and will hold the position of Chief of Mission Class 1 are Maria Elena Palo Algabre, Celeste Vinson Balatbat, Paul Raymond Pasion Cortez, Arvin Reyes de Leon, Francisco Noel Rio Fernandez, and Patrick John Uitepo Hilado. Meanwhile, the position of Chief of Mission Class 2 was given to Irie Cruz Arribas, Renato Nerdueñas Jr., Emmanuel Revilla Fernandez, Rafael Santa Cruz Hermoso, Pablito Austria Mendoza, Noel Mangawan Novicio, Renita Balagtas Rodriguez, Gunther Emil Mayo Sales, and Arnel Gonyo Talisayon, while Rhea Galanao Oreta will hold the position of Career Minister.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, we would like to invite everyone to come and visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel at Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You will be able to hear and view our Filipino and English programs, including news updates here in the Philippines. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Steph Vicente. Good day and stay safe, everyone.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.